Welcome back everyone to part 2 of my series on English ЗНО. I'm Sergey, your host, and today we will be finishing the listening part of the test. If you haven't watched the previous video on listening, I highly recommend you checking it out. I covered the first task and give you some cool tips and tricks to make your testing experience better and easier. Today we will be starting from task 2, which is the true-false questions. This task consists of 5 true-false statements, which you will have to answer after listening to a prompt. I'm sure most of you all know how to do the true-false task. It's pretty easy. If the statement in a task is confirmed by a phrase from the narrator, you put a true. Otherwise, you gotta put a false in that box. Першим чином ми починаємо кожен текст з того, що читаємо питання. Тобі дадуть достатньо часу, щоб прочитати всі 5 речень. Потім нам потрібно підкреслити слова, які тобі здаються найважливішими. Якщо ти дивився перше відео, то я вже пояснював, навіщо ми це робимо. Я дам тобі кілька секунд, щоб ти підкреслив ключові слова в цьому таску. Можеш поставити відео на паузу, щоб встигнути. Давай розберемо перше питання. Au pairing is a good opportunity to combine a vacation and a job. Зараз я включу запис, а ти прислуховувався до ключових слів, які ти підкреслив.
An au pair is a young adult who travels to a foreign country to live with a host family. Au pairing can involve any number of duties. The job is often very difficult. Try not to be unrealistic and never think that you are on holiday. You are abroad to work.
Ключова фраза з відповіді буде «Never think you're on holiday». Тобто ми інтерпретуємо цю фразу як «It's not a good opportunity for a vacation». Ось таким чином тепер зроби інші пункти цього завдання. Але перед тим, як йти далі, в мене є тільки одна порада для цього таску. Слухай уважно. Частіше за все, відповіді не будуть співпадати один в один з текстом. Як я показав раніше, врасування скоріш за все буде трохи інше, але дуже очевидне. Якщо ти пропустив якісь деталі під час першого прослуховування, то приділи більше уваги на другому. Раджу також робити позначки на питаннях, в яких ти не впевнений. And we're done with the second task of listening. So now, let's get to the third one. This is a multiple choice text. But, unlike the one in the first task, all questions will be covered in one text. This is probably the trickiest listening task because of its relatively fast pace. As for the task itself, here are the questions. Pause the video and take your time to read through them properly. As per usual, we will be underlining keywords in our answers. It is very important in this task because if you miss one answer, it can easily confuse you and slow you down. Let's listen to the beginning of the task and answer the first 2 questions.
It's easy to be jealous of Taylor Swift. She seems to have it all, and even more. Her 4 albums have earned her $125 million. But beneath her success lies a life far from perfection. Today, our guest in the studio is Samantha Clarks, whose book about Taylor Swift will help us get inside the mind of the young superstar.
The answer to the first question was in the phrase, beneath her success lies a life far from perfection. A life far from perfection here means that it was full of ups and downs, which is the answer C. Now, have you noticed how the speaker has mentioned the other 2 answers? He said that it's easy to be jealous of Taylor Swift and that her albums made her over $120 million. Be careful not to misinterpret these statements as true just because you heard a phrase that you have underlined. Most of the time, the speaker will mention all the phrases in the answers alongside with the correct one. However, some phrases might have small incorrect details about them, so look out for the small details in a text and listen carefully for traps of this kind. Which is exactly why it's so important to read carefully through the whole task before you start marking your answers. Let's do the next question as practice.
Hi, David. Thanks for inviting me.
You write in your book that Taylor had an awkward childhood. Why is that?
Taylor grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Pennsylvania. As a child, her favorite hobby was to ride horses, and she was encouraged to participate in many horse shows. She loved country music, which nobody else did. At the age of 12, she was taught 3 chords by a computer repairman on a guitar. With those 3 simple chords, she wrote her first song.
The answer to the second question was in the phrase, she loved country music, which nobody else did. This should be understood as she differed from others in her music taste. So the answer is C. And again, as I've just said, the speaker has mentioned the other two topics of our answers, horseback riding and computers. When you finish this task, you'll be done with the listening part of the test. Ну що ж, вітаю! Ти склав частину аудіювання. Ти на крок ближче до свободи і, може, навіть бюджетного місця в ХНУРЕ? Як ти побачив, перша частина була дуже легкою, але все-таки іноді потрібно було трохи приділяти увагу і навіть трохи думати. В наступному відео я почну розбирати аспект читання та, як завжди, дам тобі корисні поради для поліпшення твого досвіду з ЗНО. На цьому я прощаюся. Не забудь поставити лайк, підписатися та залишити коментар, чим це відео було корисним. Також можеш написати запитання, якщо щось було незрозуміло. Та не забудь зацінити наші серії відео про ЗНО з математики та української. See you next time!